At the conclusion of this meeting, we'll provide this recording to the City of Franklin Planning Department, and they will post it on their website. So if you have friends or neighbors who have missed this meeting but would like to watch it, there will be a link that will be posted on the website that you can go to and watch the presentation from there. There are a few ways that you can communicate with us tonight. Obviously, taking yourself off mute is one of them. And the other is through the chat option. If you open meeting chat, you can feel free to type in any questions that you may have. I ask that you reserve your questions until the end of the meeting, and we will give you ample time for that discussion. I'm joined tonight on this call by John Lohr. And John and his wife, Monica, are the owners of this property, these properties, here off of Hillview Lane. The properties that we're looking at are approximately 54.11 acres in size. The Lohr's home is approximately here underneath where it states existing home. This property is encumbered by the future Mac Hatcher right-of-way, and that right-of-way where Mac Hatcher will be located someday in the future is between this property line and then this black line here. The City of Franklin established a scenic corridor buffer along Mac Hatcher Parkway over near West Haven and in the Cool Springs area. That is 150-foot distance. That is this line that's shown right here. So that is a greenway buffer, vegetated landscape area that is also a part of the requirements of the plan to protect that area along Mac Hatcher. There is a stream that runs through the property from the existing pond and then headed northeast that goes through the area of Shadow Green along Shadow Green Drive. That creek bed originates at this pond on this property here. This property also has what's called hilltop protection on it. That is this line right through here. It turns and goes up this way alongside the hill. That HHO restriction means that new development cannot occur uphill of that blue line. So that is a protected area. This hill that is directly behind Target is also protected. And then we have the hillside overlay buffer, which is this outer line that's shown in this white dash in this location. That HHO buffer has specific development restrictions and requirements associated with it. If someone is proposing development within that 500-foot offset, any naturally occurring slope that is 14% or greater must be protected. So that is within the 500-foot offset of that buffer area. The property today is currently in the City of Franklin, so it's been annexed into the City of Franklin. It's currently zoned estate residential and has a design policy of development reserve on it. This spring, the City of Franklin adopted a new policy type in Envision Franklin. Envision Franklin is the land use plan. We are not requesting that the property be rezoned today. We're not requesting that the property be approved for development today. We are requesting the Planning Commission consider this property under a new land use policy that was just adopted in the Envision Franklin document. That new policy is called Village Green. In Village Green, there is a requirement to preserve 70% of the property as open space, as green, as tree protection, as open field, but 70% of the property must be preserved in open space. The other 30% of the property could be developed. It could be developed under specific design criteria and guidelines that are established in the Envision, in the Village Green policy. Village Green is established first and foremost to protect rural character, to protect open space. It concentrates development into a small footprint on the remaining portion of property. In this example that's shown in Village Green, there is existing farmland that would be preserved. There is existing tree forested area that would be preserved. And then there are 3 smaller areas of concentrated development within and surrounded by that open space. There are multiple residential types that are supported in this Village Green concept. The first is single-family residential home. This is a typical detached single-family house. Townhomes are also supported in this Envision Franklin policy, as well as small-scale multifamily residential. These buildings would be designed in a way that they look like a single-family house, but may have up from 5 to 12 individual dwellings, typically stacked flats within those small-scale multifamily buildings. For an Envision Franklin plan request, we are required to submit a concept plan. This is hypothetical. It's not necessarily what would be submitted as a part of a development, but it could be potentially. In this proposal, we have the existing house that would have its own large lot. The remaining area around the house would be open space preservation. We are showing 4 small multifamily buildings here that are complementary to the Shadow Green condominiums that are just on the other side of the Mac Hatcher right-of-way. Behind those, we have townhomes that would front onto a new public street. And then behind those, we have 5 single-family residential homes, one of which is existing now. The 4 would be new, and those would front and have access onto Hillview Lane. This development would potentially connect to a new road extension here that would connect through Shadow Green and Village Green Lane back out to Columbia Pike. When proposed prior to Mac Hatcher, you can see the planned roadway infrastructure. When Mac Hatcher is constructed, Hillview Lane along the bottom of the Civil War Park would become a greenway pedestrian-only trail. Hillview Lane would have a cul-de-sac, and Hillview Lane would have, at this new intersection of Mac Hatcher Parkway and the extension road from Shadow Green, would have a new signalized intersection there. There are certain guiding principles in the Envision Franklin policy that would be adhered to. Number 1, small multifamily buildings would be located along the Mac Hatcher Parkway right-of-way. The single-family homes would be located along Hillview Lane, and the roadway from Shadow Green subdivision would be extended as a second means of egress. It would be constructed to this point here to allow for a second means of egress to this proposed development. Now, again, this is only to establish this Envision Franklin policy for this property that mandates the preservation of the open space and provides for some design policy direction on the type of homes that could be built here. We are planning to file with the Planning Commission on August the 12th. We'll be presenting to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen and the Planning Commission at a non-voting meeting on August the 22nd. That meeting typically starts at 5, but it may start at 4:30. So you'll want to look at the calendar to make sure that you have the time correct. And then the Planning Commission meeting would be on September the 26th, and that starts at 7 o'clock. That is a public hearing, and the Planning Commission does open the floor up for public comment. At this point, we'll turn it over to questions or comments that the neighbors may have. And again, John Lohr is in the meeting with us. And John, you want to say hi and introduce yourself, and you're available to answer questions as well?
We can make them.
Yeah, from Monica and I are here. We're available to answer questions. We haven't attended any of the neighborhood meetings, but if you'd like to ask questions, we'd be happy to answer.
Thanks, John.
So if I understand it correctly, this is just a hypothetical. You don't actually
have a development plan or plan developed.
That's right. This is just a hypothetical required concept plan for this request to the planning commission.
Will they have that by September 26th, the actual plan that they will be presenting?
Yes, well, this is the concept plan that we'll be reviewing to the planning commission, showing them the potential of how the property could be developed using the 70% open space rule requirement.
But
So,
why now?
I'm sorry, y'all are talking at the same time. We'll do one at a time. Kelly?
no offense here, but well, actually, I don't really care. It looks like the hilltop side is protected and I'm gonna have a parkway in my backyard. And I'm not okay with that. It's gonna ruin this property and this property value. That's my back door.
Well, this
It's
is where
right where you're putting a road.
Yeah, this is where Matt Hatcher Parkway has been planned for several years, going on maybe 10 or 15 years now. So this is
Really?
a part of the state's plans, not ours.
Builders not tell us that?
The builders didn't.
The
tell
builders
us
didn't
that.
tell us that.
So
Awesome.
everybody in
Love
Vintage
them.
Green is gonna have a problem with that because the builders they didn't mention that. They charged us $30,000 more for our view of trees and cowland and farmland. And so they knew about that evidently. And we have no buffer anymore.
Yeah, there's no buffer here, at least, yeah.
So all those trees up against our fence, are you telling us those will be taken out and we'll just look at houses now instead of trees and cows, right?
No, the existing landscape buffer on that side of McCatcher is, I think Greg had mentioned, is is the buffer that, so that'll continue to be maintained.
Yeah, that stays there.
So that blue that you just circled, those trees will stay?
Yes.
And then the farmland that has the cows, is that all gone? Or is that what was sold? Has it been sold?
So this is John Lohr, this is Monica Lohr. We purchased 1154 Hillview Lane in 2020. But when we purchased that property, we did our homework. I mean, and at that time in 2017, the McCatcher plan was already adopted. So, and the consensus was adopted in 2017. There had been several of alternatives looked at prior to that. And if anybody that's had property within the last 7 years in this lane or purchased, before that or lived on lane longer, that, the time at that point was to really look at the alternatives and discuss that. When we moved here, when we talked to TDOT, Tennessee Department of Transportation,
We knew
McCatcher was going to go there. We also, understood the current zoning on the lane. And in the city of Franklin, we met with the city of Franklin via Zoom because it was COVID several times and looked at their plans for extended roadways. We also understood, but then when the roadway went in, that, Hillview Lane would be protected as a walking path. All this stuff's available online if you want to look at it. And also the future consideration areas that are in Williamson County. We purchased 1152 about 2 years ago, did the same kind of background and research, and then, that's really encumbered by the scenic easement. We purchased it from the condo owners. We could get one lot there if we wanted to at this point, given the current zoning, and develop it if we chose to.
We raised cattle there.
But Monica and I have no intention, and I think this is part of the misconception. We have no intention of developing this property at this time at all. I mean, we've talked to Greg Gamble over the years. We understand our zoning. We've, since entered into an agreement with, 1158. And our plan at this point is to continue to farm it. We have Franklin Cattle Company. We supply beef to local farmers.
Right.
My partner's the existing fire chief. The only reason this process started was with the property at the end of the lane, the Harlan property, getting into contract with Boyle. And that's really initiated this process. So when that started, reached out to Greg, we cooperated with Boyle and it in the beginning looked at different options, long-term planning. And then we decided it was kind of premature. And we just kind of went on our own because we don't have plans to develop. So contrary to the, the neighborhood meetings that we haven't been invited, and we try to reach out to all the neighbors and talk to them. And, we've been met with opposition on that. So, with Harlingen being annexed, we don't oppose it. I think if you look at the long-term plans of the county, that might, when that happens, I think what we decided to do is say, look, we can either develop this property at that point in single-family residential. We can get up to 12 or 13 lots right now. We have sewer for that. We have a letter from the city that allows us to do that. We chose to do a state residential. We could do that now. Even on 1152 over there, we could build one house.
And even though Matt Catcher is proposed in this location, it could be 20 years from now. There's no telling when the state would actually fund Matt Catcher in this location.
Correct.
We don't
Yeah,
know.
and that's absolutely correct. And so if the Harlan property gets annexed, our position is we oppose any like leapfrog development. We'd like to see an overall master plan for this property or all these properties. And, these properties in the city, when we learned about the Village Green concept, we said, well, that kind of makes more sense because it's a transition. Because the other option that we were told when we bought the property was that this property could eventually be zoned as condos, because we stare right at your condominiums. So during the wintertime especially. So
Right.
that road goes through and the Harlan property is annexed, and when it's developed, I think the phasing should start here and to go up to the Harlan property. But at this point, we don't have any plans to develop it. So if we
Emily, you had a question?
develop-
Yeah, I wanted to know if Mac Hatcher Parkway, the future Mac Hatcher Parkway, is that set in stone? Because I've lived here for 28 years and it's changed 3 times.
It's the best information that we have based upon what the state has provided to us.
Well, and if you go
It's not
online,
But it
designed.
could change. It
It's not
could.
designed. It's not designed. They've located where they want Matt Catcher to go, and this is the best information that we have at this time. But there's no construction documents.
yeah, and if you could get that changed, when 2 years ago, I talked to TDOT, asked them about the alternatives, talked to the state, talked to the governor's office, talked to the city of Franklin, and the city of Franklin has no intention of removing that easement over it. And if you were going to come have input on it, you should have been around in the 217 process when that was occurring. So you can get that report online. I can put it in the link here if you want it. But, it's the consensus was signed and adopted in 2017.
We have a question online. Will the new road
Yeah,
connect to the quarry? I believe that the new road connects to the police training area, and then would connect to a new intersection at Mac Hatcher in the future someday. We have another question. When would the access through Shadow Green be completed? Would it be above or below Mac Hatcher? This intersection would be designed at the finished elevation to create an intersection at Mac Hatcher Parkway. So it would be elevated to whatever this the contour interval would be at this location. How many individual dwelling units are proposed? I don't have an exact count on the number of homes. Again, this is conceptual planning. That's still kind of a work in progress, I would say.
So Greg, back to my question. I'm sorry I cut
Go ahead,
out
Rob.
earlier, but my question is why now? Why change the land use planning that was perfectly fine, that allows John to develop his property under the current zoning, which the rest of the neighborhood is under, rather than why change it now if he's not going to develop?
Sure, because number one, the city of Franklin has just introduced this new policy, which is appealing to the lawyers that 70% of the land could be set aside as open space, but a small footprint of 30% could be developed. So it's a conversation worth having. Second is that the infrastructure improvements for water, sewer, is all being discussed right now by Boyle with the Harlan property, and it's an appropriate time to have the same discussion about the Lohr property as we're having those conversations regarding infrastructure.
How could that possibly be? Because their infrastructure needs don't affect the infrastructure needs here, and the sewer is stubbed out at John's property, so he could easily reserve whatever he would need for development. That doesn't answer the question, why change the land use plan now if he has no intention on developing it? I mean, he could come back in 5 years when he decides he does want to develop it and present a plan amendment. It doesn't answer the question, why now?
I have a question when you get a minute.
Okay. Rob, I guess we believe that it's appropriate to have the conversation simultaneously with the Harlan property, so. James, go ahead.
His proposed road that he has going through that would connect to the shadow to the condos over there. He has the other road turning there going right into my property, 1196 Hillview. Where in the Harlan map, it showed it on the property boundaries of mine and Rob's, but he has it going right through, looks like the center of my property.
Yeah, this alignment here is not fixed. It could go this way, it could go a number of different ways. I think that's something that we would certainly have to have conversations with you, James, and Rob about before we had any kind of final plans on where that road would go.
And
So,
if the plans for his property were to be changed to a village green, I understand that he says he has no plans to develop, but if it gets changed to a village green, gives him the opportunity to sell his property to somebody else to do the development, right?
Sure, you can sell property.
So
I mean, hey, Gene, can I say real quick? May
Sure.
I ask if the part of and correct me if I'm wrong, if the part that is in that overlay is not buildable anyway, is that why he's trying to go for the 30/70 because he can't build in that part anyways? Because the way it looks like right now,
already.
all of that mess is going to be right on Hillview that we drive by every day. And it's going to be a whole lot of extra traffic on our streets. It's not suited for our street.
The protected area is less than 70%.
Yeah, but it's a really small percentage. I mean, if you look at that map, I mean, I've been living here 34 years. My property was Rob's, with John's, the Wade's, Greg Reeser's. We've been zoned together. We've been changed like 3 times in 34 years. We used to be light industrial. They set us up for estates residential, for the reason was we're adjacent to a national battlefield monument. And they wanted a buffer from this stuff. And that's why when you came with us Shadow Green years ago, we didn't oppose it because it was on the other side of Matcatcher. This was all going to stay, yes, it's zone estates residential, house every 2 acres. But when you look at that, you'd be lucky you couldn't get 12 houses in that area unless you built right up next to Matcatcher. And it's like,
I can get 12.
no, don't interrupt me yet. Don't interrupt me yet. Look at the front of my house. Look at that crap you're trying to think you're going to line up for somebody else, whether you develop it. It is, you come to this neighborhood trying to convince us that you're this good you're going to be a part of our neighborhood. You're raping our neighborhood. And you don't get the right to do that. And we will fight you.
Amen.
Amen.
Yeah,
Amen.
Amen.
Good job, Jay.
You're
Yes.
exactly right.
Amen.
Greed is what's doing this.
That would be great, yes.
Amen.
We're not
I'm
gonna
gonna
allow this.
put y'all back on mute. I just ask that you please be respectful.
I don't think saying amen is disrespectful, Greg.
Just please be respectful.
I don't think saying amen is being disrespectful. I'm not a disrespectful person. I'm just agreeing with my neighbors that are sitting here with me.
Yep, there's 4 of us. We're gonna be at that meeting
And we're gonna fight.
you know, we're with Jody. We're
We're
gonna
gonna fight
fight this.
this. And
We
I
don't
feel-
want you.
And I feel sorry for you, all you guys up on Hilltop, because
Yeah,
you have a
Hillview.
beautiful, beautiful area. And I feel really bad for you about if this goes through.
Thank you. We really love our road. We love our lane.
We'll
My-
we'll fight with
So
you.
do I.
My house,
And so do we,
develop.
you guys see me out there maintaining it more
It don't
often than
matter, it don't
anybody else
matter.
on this phone call. Jody, let me finish. I'll let you talk. You see me maintaining this road more often than anybody else out here and cleaning it and caring for this property and farming it gardening and everything else. And with the, we've supported the current construction that's taken place at Gene Level and the heavy equipment and traffic and the farming traffic and good pasture before you got here, all the equipment and all the trees that have been knocked down and we pick up and running over the lawn and repairing all that stuff, and all that's okay and good. Look, this is our property. We're looking at long-term planning. If the Harlan property is annexed, we, as well as all the neighbors, have the right to, to do what we think is in the best case. Monica and I plan on living here, even if the Harlan property was developed, we plan on living here and farm in our area. But the highest and best use, we think this makes more sense. Would you rather have 8,000 foot house like Level's building up on the top, all over this property? I mean, I could do that right now.
Well, actually,
I could put 12 to 13 houses.
John, taking care of the
property
lane
for
for a
state
little while
residents.
doesn't give you the right to destroy the character of the lane just because you want to make more money. That's just
But
not
listen,
fair.
but
It's
Rob,
not fair, John. And
Anybody
if you
over the
can build
last
12
5
houses,
years,
then build them.
anybody
But
over the
we
last
don't
5
want
years that has looked at this
120
property,
new residents on the road.
anybody that, Rob, including you, if you did your due diligence when you purchased your house, knew that there was a state residential and there was a property would eventually probably be annexed into the lane, and McCatcher was going to go through, the road was going to go through, and Hillview Lane would be a court, and there would be a walking lane. So, as the Village Green thing was introduced to us, the city came out here and met with us, and the city supported. When we walked away from it, I told them, I said, what's the point of changing this? And it provides a transition from, I stare at those condos. So condos, single family, and a state residential transitions into a neighborhood. I think it's good planning. If the neighbors disagree,
That's because you've been.
I think
Yeah,
everybody disagrees with you, John.
Yeah,
well,
we
then
sure do.
everybody disagrees with Monica and I.
You didn't even
The
leave room
different-
for the cul-de-sac. You don't even leave room for that cul-de-sac. You put big old house right there where they're gonna take this cul-de-sac. It's like, when you came to me years ago, you were talking about building some 7,000 square foot house. We gave you no opposition at all. We listened to you. We were very nice about it.
So everybody on this phone call would approve 12 to 13 estate lots with 7,000 plus unit houses.
If you think that's how many you can get on there, because I don't necessarily think you could get them with the hillside zoning ordinance.
No, I've got a letter from the city saying that I can. I've got sewer. I could
but
do
you
that.
didn't-
The thing that is though, even if you did that, even that would be rough and it would be hard, but that number of people is one thing. What you have on that plan is 5 times that.
It's hundreds of people.
Number of people and the number of cars traveling through with what you're proposing is a lot different than 7 to 12 houses.
Oh, yeah.
But it's a
What
big
do
house.
you think should be next to a McCatcher? When you drive up and down McCatcher, do you think it should be a
State's
state residential
residential.
or condos?
I
States
think it should be, you shouldn't have cut all those trees down so that you wouldn't have to look at Matt Catcher in 40 years when it comes through. But you shouldn't ask us to let you change the
Rob.
character of this neighborhood and destroy our neighborhood now when
Rob,
there's
you
no
cut-
reason. There's
Rob,
no
you cut
reason.
trees down between our house so that you could stare at our house and our pond.
That's ridiculous,
know,
John.
that
The
is
last thing I want to do is
ridiculous.
see
You
you. You're changing the
Rob.
conversation to something that doesn't matter, John.
I
What
can
does
share
matter
photos
here
with everybody
is
that
that-
proves that.
is that you are trying to change the character of the neighborhood to the detriment of everybody on the lane.
We have
And
no
everybody has
condos.
expressed to you that we don't want you to do it.
How many condos have you seen on our little 3 tracks? Wade's, mine. There's no condos. The only condos were over here on Vinnie's Green, Shadow Green, and they were on that side. We did not oppose it in anything because it made sense. The city has been trying to preserve. This is the national battlefield. The less density, the better. Hillview Lane is so skinny you can't get 2 cars. I mean, side by side, and everybody agrees. I mean, and I understand that you'll one day walk away from this road. I will die on this road. So, you don't get to do this. I mean, and if you think you can, go for it, because these are people. This is people's lives. People got a lot invested here. Yeah, you got a lot of money invested too. but you're a developer. This is the way you see
No.
things.
Oh my
We're
God.
not
I'm not a
developers.
developer. We're property owners
developer.
and we're farming the property. And
Oh,
look, I respect
you
everybody's
nasty?
opinion. I
Why are you
respect
nasty?
everybody's opinion on this phone call. I'll listen to it. I respect it, have the ultimate respect for it. I
Well-
hear you. I hear
Well-
everybody. Monica hears everybody.
I live right across the street from you, and you've never pitched this plan to me.
Jody, you or nobody on this phone call would get together with me.
No, no, no.
other than
One day,
James Goodpasture.
you called me the day the sign got put in the yard.
We didn't even know about the signs being put in the yard.
We were told that day and I called.
But how many months you've been working on this and you couldn't walk across the street and tell me this is what you were proposing?
Jody, I tried to reach out to go on record. I tried to reach out to everybody on the lane. I don't know the
Yeah.
people with the condos.
I keep all
Or I've
records.
seen you out there when we're farming, but
Oh,
nobody on the lane took the
Farmer,
time.
farmers don't do this crap.
Nobody on the
That's
lane took the
right.
time to come sit down.
You can raise
have a
cows.
Conversation before a neighborhood meeting.
You don't raise.
John, weren't you
corn.
a developer before you moved here?
Doesn't matter.
I've been a developer since, early on in my career, but
Okay, just
I'm-
clarifying
I've
that. You
got a
said you weren't a
development
developer a
background.
minute ago.
and look, when I met with the city and the city suggested this, and I thought it was, I didn't.
The
even-
city suggested this to you. The city came to you with this plan? Is that what you're saying, John?
No, what I'm saying is Greg Gamble and I have worked on this property over the years. When the Harlan property was gonna being proposed to be annexed, this Franklin process was going through. Greg, I said, let's set up a meeting with the city at his suggestion. The city came out here. We toured the property. That existing road is already in up top there. And I told him, what do you think? What would you propose? What do you think this should be? If the Harlan property get annexed, that ends up developing, what would you like to see this be? And it's the Village Green concept made sense. If you oppose it, you oppose it. I'm just saying,
Who at the city
mean-
suggested to you that it be Village Green? I want to know who at the city told you that?
Greg, you
that
could,
makes
you could
sense.
address that with the meeting that we had at here at the house.
Yeah, who at the city said that this should be Village Green?
I
It
think that,
clearly was somebody not on the lane because no one on our lane wants that shoved in our face.
I think that it's, the decision to be Village Green is up to the planning commission. And
Yeah,
I
agree.
understand, but John said somebody at the city told him it should be Village Green. So I want to know who that is.
Greg, who was at the meeting with us that you're somebody from your office? Just get the names of the people that were there that when I suggested,
Suggested
look,
it.
we've got the existing state residential, we've got sewer. We can move forward on this property. If you were gonna plan this property and phase this property long-term, what would you recommend?
But
Would you
somebody from
recommend
the
high
city is
density?
gonna
Would you
recommend.
recommend state residential or would you recommend Village Green?
Why wouldn't they want to put my property in that same zoning? Because we've been together, we're the little small little part of the city. We're locked in together. Why did they not ask me to put mine in there?
it's not a zoning, it's a land use plan
zoning.
amendment.
Yeah, but it's gonna
And
be greater zoning. I mean, it's not a state's residential.
it's only at the property owner's request to consider.
Yeah.
They're not gonna consider your property unless you ask them to consider it.
Yeah.
Greg, has there been a material
Greg, can I ask a
change to the area that would warrant a land use planning change under the plan?
Yes, the urban growth boundary has changed in this area. It's now much smaller and has a smaller sewer basin.
But how does that affect this property?
It affects this property in the sense that the sewer manhole is now directly adjacent to the property line.
So you're saying that the material change in the area that warrants a change in the land use planning that was established in Vision Franklin is the existence of the manhole on John's property.
Yes,
So that's the material change that you think under the plan would warrant a change in the land use that was established in the plan.
correct.
Okay. Just want to make sure I understood that.
Sure.
Well, years ago, the reason we don't have sewer because none of us up here has asked for sewer. The city has owed us sewer for 30 years, but they knew that they wanted to keep this low density. So there's about been no push. And it's like, so estates residential has been, you go up on Winstead Hill, this is going to be in the wood view shed of the National Historic Site. And it's like, y'all might not care about the Battle of Franklin, but us people who live here in Franklin, and there's 2 people on this thing that had 8 relatives in the Battle of Franklin. So we have a little more concern about that. This is battlefield, whether you want to believe it or not. And this development, if there is no way that anybody could look at this little thing plumped in, it don't matter what they're going to build in the road. They're not going to have access to our road. This just looks like a land grab, like a get every penny I can and walk away. I'm disappointed, John. I'm really disappointed.
Yeah, me too, John. John, I think that, so the condos you keep referring to, there's 4 ladies sitting here that used our life savings to buy those condos. And we were told that that was not going to be built on, that we had a buffer, and that's sad from the builder. We were charged a lot of money for that view. So we are all with you on Hillview, and we're going to fight with you because we feel even worse for you. And I think we need to have our own meeting so that we can fight this development together. And everyone in Shadow Green, we're going to support you and we're going to stand behind you. And you've got all of Shadow Green fighting for you guys to win this battle, because you're right. It is sacred land, and there is no reason to do what they're doing to you guys. It ruins your property values, and it ruins that beautiful land that we walk on, which we appreciate.
Yes,
So
we do.
I think we all need to get together and have our own meeting and figure out how we're going to fight this development.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, can I make a comment, please?
Yeah, Gene.
Sure, Gene, go ahead.
Yeah, with regard to Mac Hatcher, that's almost like a little blue smoke and mirrors. And by that, I mean, it's a project that the state of Tennessee will be doing. And when they say 20 years, it's probably 40.
Yeah, could be.
I mean, that's the truth. If you look at how that played out. And so we're almost like this, well, it's going to happen anyway. Just roll over. Number one. Number two, a question to John. Why isn't what you have good enough?
It is good.
I think what we have, we plan on living here, even if we developed it at some point, we'd live here on the house.
But you've got zoning, you've got 1 house per 2 acres, I think is the current zone. Why isn't that good?
Look, in my opinion, Gene, I think long-term, when the Harlan property gets annexed, the development occurs, this turns into a court, this density here, which won't impact anybody other than from a view, and the access will come off that extension road. And you live right next to Target and Kroger. And if anybody didn't think all of this property at some point in the future would develop, and you didn't do your homework when you bought the property, or when all that stuff went in and McCatcher went in, you weren't aware of it. And so
So it's our fault, John. It's our fault, John. That's what you're saying.
No, Rob, I'm not saying, Rob, let me finish. In my opinion, in Monica and I's opinion, long-term, when the Harlan property is developed, I think this is the highest and best use for our property and our property value. Until then, and even then, we plan on living here, we plan on farming the property and continuing to do what we do. So that's how I feel, and that's our opinion. If you disagree,
Greg,
ladies,
I'm not finished.
I can't address that because, you're still, I'm not the developer of that property. We brought that property from the developer of your property.
So I would like to just, again, kind of, you can't have one conversation about the Harlan development and not, include this one as well. And so the truth is, the Harlan development, we've kind of been wrapping our brain around for a couple of years. And you have a family who has 150, 175 years of historical goodwill in this community. And, there is I think a feeling amongst, that's kind of evolving that, that will, some iteration of it will move forward. But then out of the blue, bam, nobody has a chance to catch their breath. Now we're dealing with 2 at the same time. and one that we are very ill prepared to address because we're having to do two at once. Why don't you remove your request and then do it 5 years from now, 10 years from now, if you don't plan on going anywhere?
Right, exactly.
Even a year. Give us time to deal with what's up the street.
Look,
Can you answer the question?
again, I'll say it again. When I became aware of the potential of the Harlem property getting annexed to the city, the infrastructure requirements, the concerns that I had, I think will probably share the same concerns of the neighbors, is that if that property develops, I don't think, that property should develop, in front of anything, and whether it's the roads or the sewer should all be phased prior to that. Whether access is on Hillview Lane or not, I don't know. Or it's on this new road that's connecting it. I have no idea. If it's accessed off Coleman Road, great. But at least as it relates to the sewer infrastructure and the road going through, that should happen first. And because of that, and it's my understanding they plan on moving quickly, and I don't oppose it. It's like you said, Gene, it's their property. And they have the right to do that, given the history that they have here, and that's what they're gonna do. So if that happens, and when that happens, and the schedule that they're tracking, this makes sense to be in front of that. So that when that happens, if the sewer goes in and the roadways go in and I don't do anything and develop it, that's fine. But if I choose to at that time, either develop or sell, I want to see it, developed as well. So if we stay in this existing house, barn and pond, that we don't have that same impact that the neighbors have. So in some regards, we're on the same side of this, but the other process is, if that happens, you're saying that, everybody in the neighborhood is saying, well, wait a minute, you shouldn't get the highest and best use for your property. You shouldn't care about the phasing and the infrastructure, and that shouldn't go in, so it's less disruptive for the neighborhood. Those roads are going to go in and the sewer is going to go in.
So we should let you build condos because of that?
No, I'm not saying it's not a zoning thing. It's a conceptual plan. And I think this is the highest best use that matches the condos on the future roadway, it transitions into single family and then to estate residential. That's what I'm proposing. I mean, that's
John,
all.
let me just say, I don't disagree with you that it's the highest and best use for your property.
It is.
But it is
Oh, it
the
is.
most detrimental use
To
to
everyone
all of
else.
our properties. So you will
Well,
make a bunch of money, but
I don't
all of
see
the
how
rest
that's
of
the
us
case.
will suffer. John, let me finish, please.
Sure,
All of
I
the
don't
rest
see
of
how
us
that's the
will
case.
suffer because of your development. All of us will. But you will definitely make the most money by putting the most amounts of units you can put on that property. I don't disagree with you. That's simple math, that you're getting the highest and best use if you do that. That's not being a friend or good neighbor to the lane. That is the guy who's here coming in to make as much money as he can and get out of town.
He just slipped that in there. He used the word sell in his conversation.
Yeah, that's his plan. He's not
James,
going to
I'm not
develop it.
I'm not
He's
gonna
gonna
restrict
sell
you,
it and
James,
leave.
James, when you purchased this property, you made recommendations you were gonna live here, and whether you do, you don't, or you Airbnb it, we've been supportive of that. And Rob, on your property, if I put a state residential, you
The
can.
only person that's opposed me Airbnb is you.
No,
I have a
but
6-year-old daughter
Rob,
is the
if I
reason why we're not
put
here
a state
yet.
residential backing up to your fence line, you prefer that versus the buffer of a state residential?
Well, it doesn't.
John,
back
I
up to
am part of a neighborhood here,
Oh,
and I would not prefer to have a house next to my property line, but for the sake of our neighborhood, I would much less prefer having 4 condos with 64 units, 9 townhomes, and 4 houses.
Absolutely.
So yes, I
So you-
absolutely would rather you put a house next to my fence than all of that other crap.
okay, that's good to know. I'm glad that you
Yeah,
mentioned.
if the city will let you do it under the current zoning, God bless you.
And look at the hillside zoning ordinance. Look at the little dotted lines. There's not going to be hardly a place to put a house next to them, maybe one. And then you're not going to build over here about Matt Catcher. It's like, I mean, you can spin this every way you can. But I've lived on this lane for 34 years and I've had some of the best neighbors in the world. And we have fought together and we will fight as hard as you've ever seen. I mean, it's just, it's gross. I mean, that's the only word I can describe. I mean, it's just, look at my front yard. You think you can put that crap right in front of my house and be okay with that? You're not a good neighbor.
Jody, I hear you. I hear what you're saying. I tried to meet with you and talk to you about it. I'm being transparent about what we're trying to do.
No,
If you oppose it, you disagree with it, you don't make it personal, because I'm not making it personal.
Good luck, John. Good luck.
John, you are making it personal. Every chance you get, you try to make it personal.
Okay.
Good luck. It's personal. Believe me.
Well, I think we've heard
We've heard the
consistent comments tonight, and we will continue this conversation.
Can I ask a question?
You can.
Can you clarify what the Harlan development is? Is that the farm, or what is the Harlan that everybody's referring to?
It is also an Envision Franklin Plan amendment that's being proposed. It is to the west of here, more toward the end of Hillview Lane, near Lula Lane, north of Coleman Road.
We don't know where that is.
So,
Is it on our map?
If you get on Hillview Lane and you go to the end, it dead ends into the Harlan property. Mr.
Yeah.
Gamble
Okay.
happens to be
Yeah, that
also
makes
helping them develop their property.
I'm not a
Yeah,
developer, I'm a
and-
land planner.
I said
How
helping.
many,
You
Yeah,
are-
that's fine, that's fair, Rob. Hi, Christine.
how many, I just wanted so that they know what is happening, because they are in the vicinity, and it is going to impact them as well in some form or fashion. But on the Harlan property, how many houses and developments, housing situations will be on that property? Just for our friends over there that don't know yet.
Yeah, I don't exactly know. It's still a plan that's in concept.
Roughly.
It is 300 acres, and it's currently zoned in the county for 1 house per acre. The conversations that we've had with the city is maintaining that level of density.
Greg, you
So
told
how
us we
many,
were gonna put
how many-
350 houses on the property.
Can you say
That's
that
what
again?
it's
How
called.
many houses?
I'm sorry, we've got
350.
too many people talking. Rob, did you have a question?
350. 350. That's how many they're proposing for the Harlan property.
All right, any final questions? I think we're gonna wrap up tonight.
So, but the meeting's supposed to last till 7:30. Let's, don't cut it off early. There may be some.
That's fine. If there are other questions, I'm happy to answer.
You're gonna cut us off.
I'd like to just say one thing. I'm right in front of the 4 big houses you see on that map sitting on Hillview Lane. I live in that white house with half a red roof, half a.
Need to go get my list.
And anybody
Of
that's
what?
interested in helping us on Hillview Lane, please stop by and see me.
We'll come by. We're on our way.
Thank you. You're welcome to come on up. We love people visiting.
You
up
know
on-
which house this is?
Yeah.
Which house is it again? The White House with,
With the red word.
Little clapboard house, got a boat barn,
okay.
part stone, part clapboard.
Yep.
Look, got like an old tacky trailer out there.
Is it got the pump in the front, yeah, the yard too?
Yes.
Yep.
Yep.
I love that property. I walk that all the time. Yes,
I love it too.
we do. We love it and we appreciate it and we want to help you.
Next time we walk by, we'll leave our numbers for you in our emails, okay?
Thank you. We appreciate it. Sorry that I got so upset.
Can I ask a question? The Winstead Cemetery at the foot of the entrance to the road, very important, very historical, really a sacred place for this community. And it has already been compromised with the Tractor Supply development, but it seems to me that's going to be even more compromised. That historic place, that sacred place, could be even more detrimental effect could happen there.
Mhm.
Gene, you might want to take a look at the McCatcher plan that was adopted. Not only does that take that into account, it turns that into a scenic right of way, and also where Tractor Supply is, that ends up being shown as a roundabout out on the Columbia Avenue.
Yeah, but that's like we said earlier, it's a maybe, what if, not never, because it's the state of Tennessee, and the 20 years is probably 40.
I've heard all kinds of different versions, Gene. If you have the answer, It didn't.
I don't. I really don't.
I don't either.
I'm grateful for this meeting where we can all share and
The truth of the matter is I've dealt with this in Florida with my parents who've lived on a golf course their entire life with beautiful scenic views and lakes, and the golf course owner sold to a developer who broke the property, the golf course property up into and sold to different builders. And they said the same thing. It'll be 10 years, 15 years, possibly 20 years. And they were building roads through to connect this community so this community could get somewhere quicker, right? That's why the Mac Hatcher's going through, right? So we can let the people that live over there get somewhere, let the West Haven people get somewhere quicker, because God forbid they drive an extra 5 minutes or 10 minutes, right? So let's knock down things and build a road. And it didn't take that long. As soon as it gets past everybody, I can guarantee you, whoever's paying the money, wherever it's all about money, everyone. We all know that. It's about making money. And it's going to go, if it takes 40 years, I think that's a little ridiculous that people are saying that. It's not. In Florida, it happened in 2 years.
Yeah, and
It took
West
2
Haven
years.
has plenty of money. So, California has plenty of money that's coming to West Haven, to the Little Orange County mom. So that will not be a problem. And that's what they want. I already know that. So
I have friends in West Haven.
it's not to say it's not going to happen.
Yeah, they said the same thing at the meeting I attended there. They said, oh, it could be 10 years, 15 years. Within a year and a half, the first roadway was already through and they already demolished and started building. And the traffic increase, that's one of the things I'm worried about. What happened to this small little community in Florida, the traffic, where it would take you 30 seconds to pull out onto your road. You were waiting 10, 15 minutes because of the traffic. People driving their kids to school, people using that cut through.
Without Mac Hatcher.
So,
Are there any other questions about the proposed plan?
well, that was very rude. Please let me finish.
I
I'm
thought you were
using it as
done.
an example because I think you guys are being fictitious in what you're saying. They could be 30 years, 40 years. I think you're not being truthful to these people and these people who own these beautiful properties up on this road. I don't think you're being honest. I think it's going to go through much faster than what you're saying, because I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen. So, and now please, thank you for letting me finish. I appreciate that.
At TDOT, they actually consider this side of Mac Hatcher as the back door. This will be what brings the trucks to bring the supplies to West Haven one day. And I know that. I've been dealing with this for 28 years. And it's just, they needed that other Mac Hatcher to be done over there for Tim Downey could build. He was held to a limit of how many he could build. Once that Mac Hatcher was built, look over there now. They're building like 100 a day, so, and Mac Hatcher, I don't think there's no money for it right now, but things can change so quick. I'll shut up.
Greg, if this amendment to the plan were allowed to change an area zone for estate residential to land use for Village Green, wouldn't that set a precedent that anybody that owns a large lot in the city of Franklin could change it to Village Green and then build condos on those lots?
It is a policy that the city of Franklin has introduced into Envision Franklin with the purpose of ensuring that open space and rural areas can be preserved. So potentially, Rob, yeah.
So just to be clear, if you come in and you ruin our neighborhood by coming in and taking out a single family estate residential lot and putting condos in, that means anything in Franklin is up for grabs for building condos, where you can build those condos and not build condos on 70% of the property. Right?
If it's adopted by the planning commission.
So they would have to be preferring their own people in other areas to reject that plan in the other areas that they want to protect, but not for us, because they don't have any preference for us, more or less. That's what you're saying. They'd have to pick and choose who has the favor of the planning commission in that regard. Because there's no reason for it. One parcel in a estate residential zoned district to all of a sudden have condo, right? You'd be taking one parcel out of a zoning district and dramatically changing the density and the mass of people on one lot inside of a zoning district for the benefit of that lot owner to the detriment of all the other lot owners.
But I think the
Well-
planning commission would have to determine if it was appropriate. I think we're talking
Well-
hypotheticals, but I don't know.
Okay. Well, you're
the other
presenting
thing-
a hypothetical, so everything we're talking about is hypothetical as I understand it.
Yeah.
Well,
So I know-
may I add,
So is this
May
an
I add-
amendment?
Can I ask
Matt?
something? So, you know, I think we're opening a can of worms here that Rob and others are pointing out. Jody, this is a can of worms that, you know, okay, I got a 25-acre pasture sitting right there on Hillview Lane. Now I can pledge to every person on this call that I am not going to do a darn thing to that pasture except cut the grass. But, you know, okay, if now all of a sudden all these changes being made, we'll just throw up a couple of condo buildings there too. And that's ridiculous. Now, when I leave Hillview Lane, it'll be feet first in a gurney, okay? I'm living out my life there and we are not developing anything. And for the record, there was one house on that property. We knocked the house down and we're building one house back. I mean, we're not adding to, and the Walkers had several cars. Angie and I have one each. I mean, we're not adding to any density wasn't there. But John, with respect, man, it would be a great help if you could just withdraw this thing and let us digest the Harlan issue, understand how that's going to impact us. And again, like I mentioned earlier, 5 or 6 years from now, since you're still going to be here farming, revisit this. I mean, why can you not afford us that courtesy?
Gene, I'll consider it. But I also would ask that the neighborhood be more considerate with regards to these neighborhood meetings and including Monica and I. And I think the conversation could continue. Look, we've got weddings coming up on this property. We plan on being here, plan on farming it. You know Glenn Johnson as well as I do. We got a long-term, you know, you've seen the cattle there. We plan on farming it. But is that process triggered? It started our thinking and meeting with the city and talking to Greg, just thinking long-term. What's the best, you know, long-term solution? And more importantly, if that develops at the end of the lane, how does that get phased? I mean, I don't want that to start in all the trucks that we had dealt with on your remodel times 100 started coming up and down the lane and going on these access roads to develop that property at the end. You know, I'd rather have it phased where the sewers put in, the roadways are put in, everything's addressed, and that happens one time. And the access on Hillview, and even at that point, I think they should consider, you know, running the court at the end and, you know, preserving the lane. So, yeah, I mean, we'll consider it, we'll talk about it, but I think it's got to be a lot more respectful and it's got to be a lot more inclusive.
The
So
reason,
you keep saying that you don't want to, you keep saying it's just a plan, it's a hypothetical, but you just said basically that you want yours in first. That's what you just said.
No. Look, Christine, let me say this.
That is what it sounded
Well,
like.
let me
Rephrase it.
Let me rephrase that. And so you at
Please
least-
do, because that's
let me
what it sounded
clarify
like.
that. If the Harlan property starts 2 years from now, I don't think that property should start without being the roads and sewer and everything starting in front of that and being phased, and anything that has to go in be less disruptive for the neighborhood. But I gotta tell you, if the Harlan property develops at the end of the lane, you know, I fully plan on probably developing this property as well. And I would think that anybody on the lane has the option to get sewer if they want to subdivide, they want to add another house, they want to, you know, do whatever they want to do. It's really up to individual property owners. You know,
Hey, John,
after meeting with the city, this seemed to be the highest and best use.
I'm,
That's it.
may I just say though, you're the one that kept preaching about how you didn't do due diligence when you bought the property, blah, 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 blah. And you've said that multiple times to other people. When you bought your property, what was it zoned for?
Estate residential, but I also knew that, there was. some
Just like
potential-
ours. So why are you
No,
messing
your
with it?
property's not zoned estate residential.
Well, I mean the area that you're in. So why was that not good enough? Why is it not good enough? Because when you bought it, that's how it was. Because we didn't buy that long after you. We are county, your city, but we didn't buy that long after you. You bought it a certain way. So why do you need to change it?
Well, Village Green, for one, didn't exist. This Envision Franklin plan wasn't moving forward. And the fact that the Harlan is potentially getting annexed to the city changes everything for us. I mean, estate residential, and when I met with the city, we talked about estate residential and how many lots I could develop and build here, 12 to 13 lots. I mean, yeah, that's fine. But also that if long-term, if Harlan develops and that property develops, I think the higher and better use is what's being proposed. If you disagree,
Greg.
don't expect that. That's our opinion.
Greg, could you address John's statements about sewer development and about access and all of that in advance of the Harlan development, since John didn't attend those meetings, and what they have proposed in terms of having all the infrastructure done in advance of their development? And go ahead.
Sure, I'll meet with John and we can talk through that.
No, I'm asking you to address the group on that, because John has acted as though that's not their plan, that they're going to run all this traffic down Hillview Lane. Is that the plan, Greg?
The plan for Harlan is to have a main entrance coming in off of Coleman Road with a potential connection to Incinerator Drive, and there may be a connection to Lula. We were asked in the last neighborhood meeting to approach the city about maybe not connecting to Hillview Lane. So I think that is a conversation that needs to be had with the city. For
One
sure.
thing I can say about
But potentially there could be an emergency access road, and sewer may or may not have to be, run up through either Hillview Lane, through my property, or self-serviced on site. So we don't know that. I don't know the answer to that.
There's some options.
one thing,
I still don't understand how any of that makes it necessary for you to get a development plan and amend the land use plan right now. It just doesn't make sense to me why you need to do that right now.
Well, Rob,
It doesn't tie in. It doesn't
so,
tie into the Harlan development at all.
I
You want
believe
to tie into
that,
that, but it doesn't.
I believe that it potentially could, and I plan on getting together with them and learning more about it on Friday, so I'll know more. I don't know. I've never sat through a presentation.
You did tell them that you weren't going to give them access to the sewer unless you got to go first, though, right?
I have had no conversations with them with regards other than potentially cooperating on, on sewer and on roadways,
Really?
things like that. Just
So
in
you've never, even through anyone else, said that you're not going to give them access unless they get your plan through first. That's your statement.
I'm not making that statement.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure, because that'd be very contrary to what we've heard otherwise.
Well, Rob, that's the problem is that.
And why do you have to go first, John?
Rob, you fueled this with all the neighbors and you continue to make misrepresentations.
No, I just asked you a direct question and you acknowledged essentially that what you were doing. So
Rob,
why do
I
you
said,
have to go first?
Rob, we haven't made a decision like I just told you. We haven't sat down with them. I haven't had the opportunity to see what you all have seen in detail.
Greg,
But
can I have a question?
Sure.
Can you explain what amendment means in terms of changing I think it was called Village Green or something that was referred to?
Sure.
Can you explain that?
The city of Franklin has a land use plan. And it is a guiding document for new development and growth in the city of Franklin. The current policy on the property is called Development Reserve. And the city of Franklin introduced a new policy called Village Green into the Envision Franklin document, we're asking for the planning commission to amend the land use plan and place this new policy called Village Green for consideration on this property.
What is that?
So is that amendment needed in order to move forward with John's plan?
Yes, could not move forward without it.
Well, and we have,
So as a group, we would oppose that amendment and not necessarily oppose John's plan, but oppose the amendment.
Say yes, because that's correct.
we have 9 planning commission people. We have like 9 aldermen. They're the people we have to get in touch with, our planning commission of City of Franklin and our aldermen and women. And there's some really great people on all of them. And they're going to look at this plan in the big scheme and they're going to think, this doesn't fit there. And I mean, and you know, I did this 28 years ago and it's like, they've had a plan for us for all these years and it just don't fit it. I mean, it's just, and so don't get too upset. Just, we got to get in touch with our aldermen, our planning commission people, and they're the people that will make this decision. It's not John, it's not Greg, it's not the development at the end of the road. That's like a whole nother animal, and that's going to take years. Right now, we have to oppose the amendment.
How can we have a meeting or a gathering place where we can all get together and do that?
Yeah, we can do something like that. And the other day we had a meeting up the street and we did not invite John and Monica. And the only reason we didn't invite them is because we're opposed to their development and we wanted to see what we could do. We weren't being rude or nothing. It's just.
Now, I mean, Monica can address that, Jody. I think that's nonsense. We've reached out to everybody on record. We are neighbors and have been neighbors, and you should at least give us the courtesy to sit down as a group or individually and have a conversation with us.
Why didn't
I mean,
you
the
have-
most respectful thing that's happened on this phone call is Gene Lovell saying, hey, can we think about that? Can we talk about it?
Why didn't you have?
That's the most respectful thing as opposed to, you know, calling us and saying negative things about us. And it's just, that ain't cool.
I mean, I've known what you've been, I know when the developer moves on your road, he's going to develop your land. So, you know, we met with you once before. You could have had a meeting for all of us on the neighborhood and we could all come together and you could have gave us this.
Okay.
Your proposal.
You're right. You're
You
right,
did.
Jim. You're
So,
right.
so
Well,
can
you're
I
right.
mention something since, in all candor, I've known John Harlan since the day he was born, okay, literally. And over this entire process, he has never once, not even one time, called me to lobby me, to influence me, to try and, you know, get my vote or whatever, or educate me or anything. He put in process, professional process, you know, this thing that we're doing now, and he's letting it play out. He didn't try to reach out to me one-on-one. And John, again, with respect, the reason I have not, you know, honored your request to sit down one-on-one is because, you know, once you started this, we needed to just, okay, move into the formality of how it works. And I think what is happening today is appropriate and absolutely how the city has set up these type of hearings. There's more to do, but you know, and I'm glad John Harlan didn't contact me. I'm sorry you were disappointed that I wouldn't meet with you, but that's just
John said he talked to you the other day.
professional way to handle this. Okay.
That's fine. John mentioned he and you spoke the other day and you guys had a long conversation, not only about his property, about this property too. So
John Harlan said that?
Yeah. And so
it's not true. It's not true. I hadn't spoke to John Harlan in probably 6 months, 5 months.
Then Gene, it's not true. And look, I'm not saying.
I mean, I'm telling you, that did not happen.
That's fine.
And
we can ask John Harlan about it.
If you want me to, I'll call John Harlan right now and get him on the phone where you can hear the truth.
I'll see if he'll join the meeting.
Excuse me, Greg, can you tell me what meeting the amendment is going to be proposed at?
Yes. It would be on the September 26th Planning Commission meeting.
And that's held where?
Yeah, so my next.
The City Hall, Franklin?
Okay, and anybody can attend to oppose?
It's a public hearing.
Can,
Okay,
can
thank
somebody
you.
from Hillview like kind of be in charge of a meeting that we need to gather and have ahead of time so that we can all get on board? Can somebody like head that up, or cause all of us from Village Green, like will be there at the meeting. I'm shocked. Shadow Green. Can somebody just head up a meeting ahead of that September 26th meeting?
Yeah, we'll be happy to do that. I put my email address in the chat. It's robdodson71@gmail.com. If you just shoot me an email, we'll make sure you're included.
Perfect. Okay.
There's a meeting August 22nd also at City Hall. That there'll be a presentation also, so it's not just, but if we worry about by the September 26th, we done lost. We got to be at the August 22nd.
So when's the one in August?
August 22nd at City Hall, and it's
I think, in my opinion, we all need to meet ahead as neighbors ahead of City Hall.
well, Rob's real good at getting everything together, so
Yeah.
And it's Rob Dodson, DODSON71@gmail.com. I have a quick last question for Greg, if you don't
Yeah,
mind.
sure.
Hi, Greg. It's been a rough meeting and I know that. And my question is, at the meeting where the vote happens on if the Village Green gets passed, is that is the planning commit, that's the city people that we have elected, correct? That's not any of us voting. We just get to state our opinion, then they're gonna vote how they want to vote, correct?
Yes, it's the Planning Commission and they're appointed by the mayor.
The planning commission appointed by the mayor. So my suggestion, and this is what happened to my parents, so my suggestion to everybody up there on beautiful Hillview Road is that you start looking at who that planning commission is and getting their names and start petitioning them right now. Do not wait for the last day and be prepared for them to vote for money. Okay? And that's just going to be my suggestion, my thoughts to you. And I appreciate that information, Greg. I appreciate you being forthcoming on that, on who actually does the vote. Thank you very much for that. But just my experience has been, you're going to need facts and just find out who that is, who is that committee, who is going to be voting for your guys' future. And find out who their names are and start.
Already been there, Kelly. Already been there, Kelly.
Awesome.
I'm
Thank you,
doing that
Emily.
now.
Thank you. Okay. And
Well, thank you, Kelly and ladies.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. And thank you. And I do want to thank the owners. I do want to thank John and Monica for coming on. This has not been easy for you, and I know that. And I do thank you for coming on and listening to this, because I know it's been hard, but we do have to try to fight for also what we think is right and do it in a proper, respectful way. And this is always, these things are never easy for anybody, for any of us.
And for the
And I
record,
appreciate
wanna-
everybody. Thank you, Jean. You've been incredibly lovely to listen to and respectful this evening. So thank you, Jean. And Jody, all of you guys, and Rob, all of you.
And I'd like to also thank Greg for hosting this, and John for, being a part of it and letting us all start this process. It's not going to be a lot of fun, apparently, but it's something that I think, we're just going to have to deal with and deal with in the, the format that the city and the county have laid out for us to pursue. And I think everybody, we certainly as a group have obvious concerns that have been voiced tonight. But again, I'm very grateful for the time this evening. Thank you, fellas.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Greg was the designer for y'all's neighborhood over there. It's, so he did a good job over there. So
He did. He really did.
we're not holding it against you, Greg.
Oh, and Greg, we love our neighborhood, which is why we're trying to hold on to it. I don't want 100, 350 car, yeah. But thank you. I love my house, which is why, yeah, but we'll just take it from here. Thank you for everybody for all the information this evening. I appreciate it.
Thank you all.
Thank y'all. Hillview
Bye.
rocks.
Y'all have a good night.
Thank you.